eventually I would like to open up my own nonprofit.
Hi, I'm Emma, and I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm a double major in computer science and math, entering my second year here. And in terms of career goals, I would really like to go into like some heavily math influenced software development. I'm pretty interested in exploring some machine learning paths, but we'll see how that goes as, you know, my time as a student here kind of treks on.
So hi everyone, my name is Patrick. I go by he, him, his, and I am a geology major. I'm a senior, I graduate in spring, but I'm a non-traditional student, so I was a psych major for 3 years as well. Career goals, I want to go to grad school. I want to up my, I'm calling it up, but I want to go from geology to geophysics, so maybe add some more math and then become a professor one day.
All right. Hi, I'm Sheldon and I go by David. So, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. I go by he and his. My major is math and computer science, like Emma here. So my future goal, I'm not really sure yet, but because this is my second semester into computer science, but I think I'm gonna go to grad school and develop something deeper into computer science, I guess. Yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We will move on to our second question, which is talking about the transition into college. So we will start with Emma. What was your transition to college like?
I think that academically, the transition wasn't too stark for me, particularly because I was taking some college courses back in high school. So that wasn't necessarily the most like surprising. I kind of knew what to expect in terms of going from like a high school course to a college course. And I was pretty fortunate for that to be the case. But I think that's something that people don't always think about in the transition to college is it's not just an academic transition, it's also a social transition. And so for me, it was very important to like make the explicit decision to start reaching out more than I had beforehand, especially being in the weird position of like halfway college, halfway high school. And so something that you kind of realize that once you start college is that you're not just here to learn, you are here to learn, but you're also here to kind of like explore the kind of person that you are and the kind of person that you want to be. So a lot of my transition to college was kind of like carried by personal realizations. And I think that that was something it's really important to understand is that like this transition, it's kind of a wonderful and exciting one because all of a sudden you're like, wow, I have a certain amount of independence if you were coming straight from high school, which might not be the case for everyone, but even still you're thrown into this new environment. And it's a little scary at first, but also you start to realize like, I have this fresh start to make the friends that I would want to make and to kind of like join clubs that are outside of my comfort zone. And I think taking advantage of the opportunity, not just academically, but also socially it was really important for my transition.
Great, thank you. We will move on to Jasmine to hear her thoughts.
Just to kind of echo off of that, I think I kind of had a similar experience so far. I think college has been a really big area for me as far as growth as an individual perspective. I think something definitely coming into school and the biggest transition for me was just a culture shock. I come from a city and a high school that was just super diverse, and I had never really been around anything different than that. And so coming to a primarily white institute with the people typically with a background with a lot more money than I came from, and that's not always the case. It was just kind of my first experience coming in. So my biggest recommendation and learning experience from that was really just getting involved, finding community on campus, off campus, to kind of Emma's point, just joining clubs and different things like that was really helpful for that aspect.
Great, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, so to echo off that, I also had a culture shock when I moved here because I also grew up in a place with a lot of diversity. So for me, it was different. And so that my approach to making friends and meeting people became very different when I moved here. But that actually became a very nice thing because I got to realize that I wasn't alone in that. I met a lot of people. I ended up, so I've told you before, I was a non-traditional student. I ended up making my own club and got to be a part of a club that celebrated diversity, and ethnic diversity was a major part of it. We all went on, all four of us who started the group, to own our own business in Boulder, which was great. And it was just an advocacy group, and it went great. So I think the biggest transition shock for me, because I did not have college credits in high school, was I always did really well in high school, and I didn't have to try very hard. And then I hit college and realized I had to try a lot harder. Our teachers give us the basis of how to excel ourselves. So it wasn't like I went to my math class and things were great. I had to figure out how to do that myself. So definitely be there.
Great, thank you. David, could you talk a little bit about your transition? Because it's different since you're
Yeah, it's
from a
quite
different
different
country.
here. So like you might be able to imagine, I grew up in China, which is a whole different country with a whole with a totally different culture there. So it was a great transition for me. So my kind of advice, I guess, would be just go out there and meet people and make friends. Because when you talk to people, like I guess it's easier for you to get into the culture here, and then which is essential. So my way of doing it is actually I got into snowboarding because it's Colorado. So there would always be like friends going with me. So that way we would be able to talk anything other than snowboarding. So yeah, that's basically my way of transitioning from a whole different culture to here.
Great, thank you. We will move on to the next question. The third question is, what is one thing that didn't work out or that you failed in, and what did you learn? And we're going to start with Patrick on this one.
Hello. So I wanted to start with this one because, as I said earlier, I am a non-traditional student. I started back in 2009 as a psych major. And I struggled through it with personal issues. I myself went through cancer at the time and did not feel comfortable talking to my advisor or talking to my teachers. And instead, I failed out of college because I didn't look for help when I needed it. So that will be my biggest thing is I failed out of college, took a few years off. I beat cancer, obviously. Hello, I'm here. But the big thing for that was I realized that psychology wasn't for me. I wanted to fix people and not help them. So I looked at what I really enjoyed, and I wouldn't say that I failed my original major, but I realized that I had a passion for something else, and it's working out a lot better for me. And I will say, going from psych to geology, there's a lot of math difference there. And we didn't have this at my high school, but the learning labs will be your best friend. Don't ever be afraid to walk in because they love when you show up. You're probably going to get a sucker or like some chocolate for showing up because they're so happy to see you, but they will teach you everything. Just go see them.
In my case, I think something that I learned, particularly from last year, there was definitely a point at which I just would keep pushing myself and like push myself to do as many like activities and like do competitions, and I did not want to have anything less than like a perfect grade. And I just had this such perfectionistic attitude, and kind of above that, I didn't want to allow myself to be seen struggling in much of like any fashion. And for me, it kind of brought me to a little bit of like a, not like a break point, but it definitely brought me down to like close to like a rock bottom in terms of just being able to like continue trekking and continue pushing through things. And I I sat there and I was just like, I need to like stop pushing myself just for the sake of it, and I really need to reevaluate what I want to do and why I want to do it, and not just for the sake of saying, oh hey, I did this because if I do this it's going to make me feel better about myself. And so I think at a certain point in time it's really important, and it was important for me, is to like listen to yourself and not just um like listen to how far you know you can actually go with something, how far you're willing to push yourself academically. And like at the end of the day, the most important thing, like it's wonderful to be like getting grades and accolades and competitions and to be doing research and have like so many jobs or whatever it may be. But if you are not okay with yourself at the end of the day, then it doesn't really mean that much. And so something that was really helpful, in all honesty, was like I had a best friend that I made here actually, and she was so supportive of me throughout that and was kind of like really down to earth, and we were able to talk about similar experiences of being like, oh, I'm feeling like I am an imposter, I'm feeling like I don't really belong, or I'm not good enough for the things that I'm doing, and being able to relate to a person um, on that level was really helpful. So I think that when you go into this college experience, it's really important to find support groups, and not like the formal support groups, but like groups that you know you can trust and people that you know that you can go to even when it's not pretty. And so that was something I really learned from that experience.
Yeah, to kind of speak to that, I had a similar answer as well. Coming to CU Boulder, and kind of, I came in as an undecided major, and my initial goal was to transfer into the School of Engineering because I thought that that's what I wanted to do, and that's how I was going to please everybody and have like the best career down the line, things like that. And I think in that process, I got so frustrated with trying to get to the one thing. I kind of let all of my other responsibilities lay back. And I think it was like the middle of my second year here at CU, like was my first time I ever failed a class ever. And it was something that just completely tore me apart. And I think that kind of speaks to every student, is just like you really have that kind of, to Emma's point, where you just think, oh, I'm not made for this, I'm not cut out, things like that. I think my biggest learning curve was um, kind of accepting accountability for the steps I was actively taking and the steps that I wasn't, like really understanding what was working and holding myself accountable for those habits, and then also calling myself out for the habits that weren't working out for me. Why did I want to work through all these classes? Why did I overstack myself? And kind of answering that. So definitely just making sure that you kind of give yourself that space to step back and do that evaluation, or give yourself feedback for the good and the positive and the negative. So
Great, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next question, which is actually about advising. So, many of the students who are in the room right now, hopefully you met with an advisor during the summer. But, it's more than just about potentially like picking classes and stuff like that. So we're going to figure out what other things advisors can help with. And so the question is, can you discuss how advising has helped you explore academically and or personally during college? What are some tips to make the most of advising? And with this question, we're going to start with David.
Hi, actually, I was gonna talk mostly about like academically, like picking classes and stuff, but yeah, I'm just gonna go with it. So I got into college with just majoring math, and then around a year ago, I think I started to basically get interested in computer science. And at that time, I just went to call here, which is my advisor. So basically, he helped me plan out like what classes to take and how many credits basically every semester, so that I will be able to do also a double major in computer science. So I mean, it's great when you talk to somebody who actually knows this and have been planning this for years. it's so much easier and just more comforting, I guess, than just trying to figure it out yourself. So yeah, that was my kind of opinion. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. We will move on to Patrick.
Hello. So I will say more than just finding classes, they have a lot of connections that you wouldn't have to get otherwise. I'll tell you something that's going on with me currently. I am currently looking to do an independent research project, and I put my idea out there and it didn't work out with my original professor I was working with. And she told me to find someone from possibly the psychology or sociology department, because it's hard to break my original major there. So I reached out to Cole, and Cole was able to help me speak to a faculty advisor from, well, 2 other departments that I had never even heard of. So I got to speak with someone in sociology who then referred me to education, and then full circle, I'm back working with a geology professor. And since I don't have a lot of classes in that department, I didn't know who to talk to, but he was able to help me get to the right person. And now my research project was approved. So things are going well. And the good news is they will guide you through it. It's not just a, should I take this class or this other one? Yes, they'll guide you through it, but you ultimately have to decide if you are interested in that class and if it's going to help you. So use them for everything.
Thank you. Jasmine, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I will say, it was a little different. So I didn't have Cole my first year at CU. I had I think because I was undecided, it was just like a regular first year advisor. And they were really helpful in getting my schedule set up to kind of helping me understand not to have my classes spread all across campus, things like that. I will say something that I did struggle with like first year is not really being able to connect with my advisor. I didn't really feel like they were supportive of what I was trying to do or my goals. I didn't feel like I got the right answers to my questions. Kind of like things like that. It was just always, I was very confused often when I left the meetings, things like that. I think as soon as I started reaching out a little bit more and finding other advisors to work with is when I really started getting the support I needed. When I was doing research for what other majors to explore and things like that, I found data science, and what really inspired me to kind of pursue that research and dig in a little bit deeper was kind of after a conversation with Cole, just understanding the background of what possibilities of positions there are with data science and kind of things like that really started that gear shift in me and thinking about, oh, what else can I do with this and what other places can I go with it? Especially there's different programs have different pathways, preset pathways, obviously. I think a really fun thing about my program in particular is that there's a couple of different routes I can take as I kind of near the end of it. And so really helping and talking through those problems and asking all the questions that you have, it was really helpful for me.
Kind of just to like echo off of what Jasmine said, like when you go into your advisor appointment, like do not be afraid to come in with a load of questions, because honestly, like putting off those questions is just going to make you so much more stressed in the future. So like something that I always do is like the night before I go to my advisor appointment or whatever it may be, I just write down all of the questions that I have, like smallest to biggest, and I take notes during every advisor session, just because it's something that's like, in my case, I'm my 2 majors are in 2 different departments, so I have 2 different advisors, and so sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to like keep track of the information that you're being given from 2 different people in 2 different departments, even though most of the time it does align with itself. In my case, I think that Cole, who's my advisor for my math major, it's actually really, he's very helpful in figuring out what courses best correspond with my computer science degree as well. But something that I encountered with a computer science advisor that I have is there was originally a lot of doubt about me being able to fit everything in time, particularly because I'm trying to graduate early. And that was like something where I kind of just had to sit down with Cole and like ask a lot of questions about what course I can count for both, what I might be most interested in actually taking. And with the arts and sciences department, they don't require you to have a session with your advisor every semester, but I would absolutely recommend meeting with your advisor every semester. It's not required, but it's something where when you get around to actually selecting your classes for the next semester, if you've already met with someone and you know that like you're on track to take the courses that you need to, you know what those courses entail, if it's too heavy a load to be taking all at once, or whatever the information might be, that they have like the insider information about those courses. Having that check-in every semester's like, it's doing nothing but serving you. So I would really recommend taking notes, preparing questions, and meeting with your advisor every single semester.
And Cole, if I could, I just got asked a question. You mind if I answer it out loud?
Yeah, no, go for it.
So I was just asked kind of what kind of geology research project would incorporate sociology and education? And I'm going to tie that into the question as well. So I want to research why there is not enough research opportunities for individuals in the geology department. There's lots of research, and we're one of the leading schools for geology research in America. But it's the avenues in which people get those opportunities. So I want to research, most of the time you have to be willing to talk to professors. You have to be willing to talk to people you've never met. And for a lot of people, that's very off-putting to the point where they may never go for their idea. And their idea could have been amazing, but they're so afraid they just give it up. So I want to look at different avenues that would help students, because I want to be a professor one day and help guide them into these research opportunities. I want to look for a way that would help, and this can apply to any department. I just work in geology departments, so it's where I know we're not getting enough help. In psychology, every single student does their own independent research idea in order to graduate. However, in geology, you take labs, but there's no research. So I want to look into ways to help individuals with social or learning disabilities be able to get those kind of research opportunities in geology. And like I said, having Cole get me in touch with everyone helped me make that idea come to life. So.
Great, thank you. And I will echo what Emma was saying, that it is a good idea to meet with your advisor every semester, because every semester when I have to do graduation certification, there's always one or two students that, they thought they had everything checked off, and then it ends up that they're missing a class. And so I would definitely recommend meeting with your advisor every semester. And you can do it more than once. That's not a problem. So there's no limit. We're going to move on to the next question. So we have heard quite a bit about, people have changed majors or maybe added a major, stuff like that, but hoping to get a little bit more in terms of what about other things outside of academics have people explored at CU. So we will start with Jasmine on this one.
Yeah, so kind of speaking to that piece of community and how I found mine on campus, something that was really important to me was really finding that aspect of diversity again on campus. And so when I first toured CU, I think I was like a sophomore in high school. And I came across the Q Center, which was our cultural resource center at the time. By the time I was starting out my second semester, we had heard news that the Q was closing, but we were kind of turning it into something else and making another kind of resource center, but to combine multiple things. And so now that's gonna be the Center for Inclusion and Social Change. It's been that name for the past year and a half now. And through that, I do a couple of different things. Initially, when it was the Q, I did programming for students. So trying to host first year programs like during different months of the year to kind of highlight Indigenous tribes, different backgrounds, things like that. And then now that we've expanded on the kind of opportunities and resources that we do offer, I also do peer education. So peer education is kind of certifications and presentations that we do around campus, and those surround safe zone training, sex education, interrupting racism, interrupting sexism. And I think that's not only something that I think I get a lot of different learning opportunities from exploring those things. One, I get presentation practice, which until I started getting more into it, I didn't realize how important it was. Presentation practice is super important, especially now that we are remote. It's really important to get comfortable with that. I think something else that I learn a lot about is what identity really means to me and how that operates, and something that I didn't really think about before. Even as a person of color, you definitely have an underlying knowledge, but I think it's definitely worth it to continue digging in and really understand what language we're talking about, kind of what that means and how it applies to your career. Something else I really got out of exploring that is understanding how I want to apply that in the industry. And so I also do a front desk job, which kind of comes through my work study. So that allows me to have a student position and earn while I also get to work on my homework and prioritize that as well. So that's just a couple of different things on campus that I'm involved in.
Thank you. Emma?
Something that I kind of learned from, I guess, starting out in like a little bit into my first semester here, something that I found out was like, you do not just have to explore things that are related to your potential career. Like, it was something that was really exciting for me was that I was just like, there are some things I wanted to do since I was a kid and just never learned how to do, and they have nothing to do with anything I want to do with my life, but I just wanted to learn how to do it. So like, I emailed a graduate student in the music department and I was like, hi, can I potentially take some singing lessons from you? And so now I am taking singing lessons, and it has nothing to do with what I want, and with my career, but I'm enjoying it. And it's something that I find like really nice to do as a hobby for my free time. And I started doing improv comedy for no reason other than like the community was really fun on campus in terms of improv comedy. So you do learn some things about yourself that you might not have known you enjoyed, and you don't have to take everything like the most seriously. It doesn't have to be a means to an end. It can just be some way that like you like to spend time, and then that's good enough. And so I think that was in my exploration at CU, I learned that like not everything has to be a checklist. It can just be something you enjoy doing.
Great. Excellent advice. David, any thoughts?
I think you guys have covered all of it. I mean, I really don't have anything on mind right now. No.
That's okay.
Alrighty, sorry about that.
Not a problem. Patrick?
Sure. So my freshman year, my real freshman year back in 2009, I was super, super shy. As I've gotten older, it's kind of gone away, but I was super shy. So it took an entire semester for me to finally, do anything with a friend or go somewhere new. I had made some connections in classes and thought they only took my number so we could study, but most of the time, you have these classes of people so many hours a week, and you both want each other to succeed, and sometimes there's more than that. You start to have these friendships, and you should enjoy those. Try something new. My freshman year, I went to a poetry slam and got up and did it myself, even though I don't think it was that great, but I went for it, and I had so much fun, and it helped me break that shell, even though I was still shy. It helped me break that shell, and it's something I would have never done before. So David said this in the second question: make friends and enjoy the time you have. They're going to be the other best part of being in college. So just make friends.
Great, thank you. That kind of leads to the next question, which is, what is the best thing you have done so far at CU? And we're going to start with Emma on this one.
Kind of going off of what Patrick said, we're like, making friends is so much more important than you can kind of like imagine coming into school. I came into school and my roommate and I, we were matched in this one, it's like the roommate service. You're allowed to like message them and figure out who you want to room with. And the only thing we really knew about each other was that we liked it clean and we liked the room warm. And we were like, sure, sounds good enough for me. Let's be roommates. And then from now, like we ended up being such close friends that we call each other our soul sisters. So it was something that like, I think honestly one of the best things that I've done in my college career is making friends with her, because she's like this person that I can come up to and be like, hi, why don't we just like do this project for fun? Why don't we just like make something better on campus? Why don't we start something because we see a problem and we want to fix it? And I think that like surrounding yourself with the people that like really inspire you and push you and also love you is something that's really, it's really important, because you can be yourself around them. And so many like good things that you would think about like doing in your college experience, they really start with having the right people around you, that you are comfortable enough to say, I want something to happen, I want to do this, this is the person that I want to be, and that they'll support you in that, and someone that will be excited with you. And I think a lot of my really wonderful college experiences have been because I'm friends with her. So overall, I recommend, like Patrick said, just so much good comes from making friends. So I really recommend that first and foremost.
Thank you. David?
All right, so I was gonna say snowboarding. I mean, that's great, but I think there's something better than that. So we have this kind of student group, I guess, called CSSA, which is Chinese Student Scholars Association. And on like Chinese traditional holidays, we do celebration events, which is great for us Chinese students, because it's a sense of kind of belonging, and we can celebrate the holidays. And also it's great because we can let more people like get to know the Chinese culture, which there's sorry, there's a lot to be learned right there. And also it opens up, I guess, an opportunity for those who are actually interested in the Chinese culture to participate, I guess, into these events. And I think that's great for cultural exchange. So I changed my mind, and that's the best thing.
Perfect. That is excellent. Actually, I was thinking as you were talking about that, and with the question that we had before about exploring CU, could you talk about like the different opportunities that ISSS has? Like I know they have like the language tables and some other thing like events like you were talking about that they.
Yeah, I haven't been to a lot of them, but I know they have the IFEST, which is international festival, something like that. So that's like a mixture of all the cultures on campus. Basically, you can find anything there, and you can get to know all the cultures and stuff. I think that might be the one that I've been to the most. Also, speaking of ISSS, basically anything you go to ISSS, and anything for international students like immigration and stuff, you go there and they know everything. So yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question, which is sharing an embarrassing moment and how you got through that. So we're going to hear from Patrick.
All right. So a lot of times you're going to take classes that are not a part of your major. there's a lot of English classes you still got to take. And I was always really good at English. I was like, I'm going to go for this high English class. And this English class required us to go to a bunch of like book readings where people whose books were about to be published, they were going to read portions of it and try to get the community into their books. And I fell asleep. And I was 6 months fresh of not having braces anymore. And let me tell you guys, as an older person, I also had headgear for 2 years. Yeah, I was like one of the last people who had actual headgear. So I still drooled a lot and snored. And I snored in the middle of this quiet book reading that was recorded. So she paused her reading and she said, my book is so good, it puts my audience to sleep. And then someone woke me up and she invited me on stage. And I told you before, I was super shy and I was embarrassed and my teacher was there. But of course, she just joked it off and it was great, but things happened. So I just laughed about it. She laughed about it. And then the English department talked to me about it every time they saw me. So it went really well. So things happen, just laugh through it. That's honestly my best advice.
Thank you. That is pretty funny. We're gonna move on to the final question, and then, like I said in the beginning, if people have questions that they want to ask the panelists, then we're going to open things up from there. So obviously, heading into this semester, very different in terms of what the traditional classroom experience is going to look like. So we're going to get some tips on remote learning, and we're going to talk to Jasmine first.
So with remote learning, I will say definitely I was somebody who really struggled going online. I'm definitely a person that likes having the one-on-one kind of support to go through examples or just like ask my questions right then and there. And so learning how to kind of networking is just super important in general. I'm going to throw that out there first and foremost. But I think what I decided, or what has been helping me even more since being remote a lot of the time, and even during my internship, was leveraging that network. Making sure you're following up with those conversations, making sure you're keeping in contact with the resources, because now that we are remote, it's a lot easier to get in contact depending on the case. And it's also a lot easier to kind of spread your time out to make sure you prioritize that and make sure that that's something that you're focusing on. And so that's definitely one thing that's kind of been different for me, is making sure that I'm being intentional about how I prioritize my time and schedule my time. Somebody like me, I have to do it at a very granular level, like the hour, half hour mark. So if it takes that, it takes that. For some people, it's a little different, but definitely leverage that network and prioritize your time appropriately is what I've done.
I found myself, so something that ended up happening when we transitioned to remote was that my work also transitioned to remote, and I was not, I mean, the only time I was like really hanging out with friends was over Zoom calls. We would play games and things like that. So all of a sudden, it wasn't just that like my school was remote, most everything was remote, which I'm sure a lot of y'all have experienced as well. And so something that I just ended up doing was I somehow fell into this pit of doing everything in one area and feeling a little miserable because my whole day long I was like in one section of my room, and I was like working, and when I wasn't working I would like feel like I should be working because I was in the same place, so I'd feel guilty because I'm like not doing something productive at all times. And so I really had to like create certain habits that were really prioritizing both like my mental health as well as productivity. And so certain things I did was like make mental associations with spaces. So like there are only certain places in my house that I will allow myself to work in. And then if I'm actually like doing something like reading for fun, or if I'm knitting or something like that, I will not knit in the same place that I work, because that means that I'm not going to think about knitting or whatever it is while I'm working, or I'm not going to think about working while I'm knitting. And I can kind of like create spaces where it's okay to keep those things separate, and that I don't feel at all times that I should be doing something productive, because you are not a robot and you just can't live your life being productive 24/7. It's just not a realistic expectation. So putting in place things and like those sorts of mental associations and tricks, even if it's just like I put a cup of water in one shelf when I am working and another when I'm not, doing small things like that can trick your mind into believing that this is the time for something and not something else. And that I found that to be helpful.
Thank you. David?
Sorry, me?
Either one.
Oh, yeah, either one will work. I'm gonna go. So kind of adding what Emma just said, mental health is important, and I think a big part of it is you have to still talk to people, because like normally you go to class and you might meet somebody on the way to class, or in the classroom you guys talk and stuff. But but now you cannot do it anymore. So like I said, talk to people, like FaceTime your friends, call your friends, because socializing is important. I realized in the hard way actually. I haven't talked to anybody in like a couple months actually since the lockdown, and then I realized, yeah, it is important because you're gonna go insane if you don't do it. Yeah.
And I will talk about it on the other side of things. I also want to say that yes, we are going remote, and grades are super important. But just because you have the ability to, or think you do, to cheat, I think that's a big thing I want to talk about. It's not going to help you, especially in these higher classes. If I get an answer right, great. And then I go to my next class, which becomes a 3,000 level course. I now know nothing about that subject. So I would say really study and use this time to do it. I think having this online source is so important. I have two friends now, two very close friends of mine, and we're all geology majors, going in different routes. One of us is more into igneous, one of us is one of us is looking more into sedimentology, and then I'm looking more into the educational side, which incorporates all of it, right? However, we had a 2-hour Zoom after classes. We set it up to where we could do that so that we could help each other through different homeworks or ask each other questions. There was also multiple times this past semester, I took a graduate level course that I didn't think I was ready for, and I did very well. But in doing that, I just put out in the middle of our class one day, hey, do you guys want to meet up on Zoom sometime this week? Now that we have Zoom, use that resource, because before maybe you had to leave campus and you couldn't get back to have like a meeting. Now you're at home, have that meeting, and all 13 of us showed up. I didn't even think anybody would, because only 2 people responded, and then all 13 showed up and they were like, let's figure this homework out because I'm confused. And I think that's the best part of us having Zoom, is that we can meet up whenever. Because it's on our phones, it's on our laptops. So it's not like I have to rush back to CU. And I mean, I live in Loveland, so I live far from Boulder. So it's nice that we can just meet up and get the help I need. Same thing applies to what I said earlier. Teachers, ask them. They will Zoom with you. Even if it's not in their hours, they want you to succeed because they want to be proud with you. So ask them. Hope that makes sense.
No, totally. I would agree. Yeah. So, something that obviously is different as you go from high school to college is the idea of office hours. And so when you start classes and they go through the syllabus the first day, the office hours will be something that they talk about, and the times and stuff will be listed on the syllabus. And like Patrick was saying, make sure that you take advantage of those. And if you have a schedule conflict where you can never make it in the listed times, they will work with you. So just reach out and talk with them. And that concludes all our scripted questions. But we do want to open it up. And if there are people who are just waiting to ask some questions, please. We're ready.
I do have one question for the panelists. I think the students be wanting to hear. So assuming that many of our students here are living in the res halls, right? So what are some of your best strategies and tips for making the best of it, living in the res halls, given that, this freedom that they have now, and then interacting with the RA, interacting with the roommates or multiple roommates, or actually he's probably just roommate now. But yeah, any tips and tricks for our students here?
I have a simple trick, and I think that this is twofold. The first part is take advantage of community spaces. So there are certain areas you're not going to very easily make friends if you kind of hole up in your dorm room. I think it's easy to become isolated unless you actually take the leap to get out there. And I'm a relatively introverted person, so I think that was a hard thing for me to put myself in the mindset to do. But it actually works if you find some sort of strategy or some sort of excuse. So if you're not a person that just naturally goes out and socializes super easily, or you find yourself a little drained by that, kind of having a little bit of a crutch is helpful. So for me, I really love board games. And so I would bring a board game into a community space. And it would start out with a couple of friends and we're playing a board game. And then more people would be like, oh, hey, can I come play? And then be like, yeah, sure, playing the board game. Before you know it, you have an entire floor sitting on the ground playing a board game together. And so I think it's just simple tricks like that. I mean, I'm always a board game person, so I recommend them. But just any sort of activity that you can kind of try and get more and more people, and just be welcoming in it too. So don't anybody that comes up and wants to hang out with you, they're in the same spot as you are. We're all looking for friends. We're all in a new environment. And so I think it's, and we're also all dealing with this new reality of what school looks like nowadays. And so we all need people that we can relate to in that way. But also, even if somebody doesn't reach out and you see somebody sitting on their own, maybe think about what they might be feeling in that perspective, what they might be struggling with. Maybe they put themselves in a situation because they're not quite in a point where they can ask just to join in on a group. And I think it's important to show that person that, hey, other people notice them and they see that they exist, and just invite them in on something, even if you don't know them. It means a lot more than you think it does. But those are my tips.
Okay, I'll go. So I live down in Willville, so I lived on the off-campus dorms. And I was in room 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'll never forget that. But I will say, so we had the co-ed dorms and the co-ed everything down there. And I think why that was important to me, not only was it co-ed, but we had a ton of different majors. I was on campus for half a second before they moved most of us out of our dorms. We all had to be rescattered because they realized they overbooked the dorms, and there was 8 kids in a 4-bedroom room. And they were like, we didn't mean to do that. We got to move you. So they moved me down to Willville. And I will say, because there's a huge community down there, I'd never slacklined before. I just walked outside and said, can you show me? Because someone was doing it. And they were like, hop on. It's so easy. You just got to do it. And I was like, okay. So just like she was saying, walk up and ask. And if you're not afraid to, or if you are afraid to, honestly ask. I'm guaranteed they're not going to say no. I don't think I ever actually heard a no when I asked to meet someone or hang out or see what they were doing. And that goes down in Willville. There's also lots and lots of different majors. So it's not like when you live on campus and you may be with someone who's just, when I was a psych major, they had a bunch of us psych majors together. And what was helpful with that is if I needed help, there was probably someone in my dorm who was good at math and they could help me, or they could look at my English paper, and they'll usually just be so happy to do it, honestly. So use that community like Emma was saying.
Also, just speaking to the part of, because it is such a big transition, it's also really hard to establish boundaries with a roommate, whether or not you do get along right away, or at all. I've seen just a lot of people not get along with their roommates at all. And I came in with people that I knew from high school to college, but we immediately decided that it would just be really beneficial to us to explore other options. And so I was also actually in Mobile my freshman year. And something my roommate and I did right away was just really establish like boundaries as far as cleanliness and like friends and things like that. And then I think that really opened up the conversation. Like none of us were ever really felt awkward or like weird about bringing stuff up. It was just easier to have any kind of conversation or kind of create that inclusive environment, at least from your room, because kind of speaking to that isolation piece as well is like, if you don't even have a good relationship in your own living space, it's also going to cloud how you kind of progress through campus and work on your work, things like that.
Cool. Thanks, friends, for sharing. And then also just to mention that, with the new, protocols and policies that are in place this year for COVID-19 and social distancing, obviously do everything with social distancing, be safe, be healthy, be responsible. As adults now, I consider you all adults. We all have agency, which means that you have the freedom to do whatever you like, correct? But then those come with moral responsibilities. So be cognizant, be aware. But overall, we still want you to have a great time here at CU during your first year.
Okay, I just put out a call if there are any final questions. If not, I would like to thank all of the panelists and everyone else for attending, but yeah, we will wrap up a few minutes early. Here's a question. So anyone can jump in. Do you prefer ebooks or physical books?
I will jump in. It depends on the subject. I actually like both. For the more curricular things, I want that hard copy because I like to physically write on it, do whatever I need to do to it, and go. You don't have to buy it. You can go rent it as well. They're a lot cheaper to rent. But for other courses, so I'm in geology, sometimes we get books that aren't necessarily the exact part of the curriculum, or I don't know what word I'm trying to use, but sometimes it's more like this book's kind of guide you through a bunch of other classes. You should buy it. Those ones I will get e-copies so that I always have them with me. And a lot of times they've helped with like chemical structures or remembering this certain type of geology movement. And so both, and just kind of figure out what works best for you.
I have a quick comment on that too. My preference of physical books or ebooks is entirely dominated by whether or not I can find a free version online. We actually have like an online library service with CU Boulder. And it's incredibly helpful because you do not realize how many of your textbooks are online for free with our library service. So before you buy anything, go online to the CU Boulder library and look up your textbook because it'll likely be there for free. It's not going to be there for free in all cases, but like it's entirely a price point thing for me, which maybe is not the best, but it'll really save you if you do your research before you buy a new version of a hardcover textbook for like $200.
Can I kind of touch on the math question?
Sure. Yeah.
So kind of with the math question, something that I really liked and why I switched from deciding to try and pursue engineering was primarily for that math background. I was really drawn to that more than the science, and I wanted a way to apply it more. In a lot of cases, at least what I found as far as industry positions, and what I mean by industry is like business, kind of telecom, things like that, like corporation type of work. I find that you can really apply math in a lot of different ways in those areas. Something that really that I like from the stats perspective is how I can kind of communicate demographics or other research and kind of what data and numbers mean to people in the business industry who aren't necessarily inclined to thinking in that way or don't necessarily understand how we think about it. And so there's a lot of different applications that you could do. A big thing that Cole suggested me in helping me find internships was research different positions, reach out to them, ask questions. Like LinkedIn is a really big resource. Just ask what they do from a day-to-day basis. Ask them to shadow, things like that. If anybody does have more questions, I will throw that out there. You're more than welcome to connect with me or ask me questions, or I'm sure anybody here would be more than happy to do that. But yeah.
Just kind of adding to that too, I'm kind of coming at it from a computer science background, but algorithm design is so much more math than it is computer science, if we're all being honest here. Like, if you take an algorithms class, you find out that it is a class of proofs. I mean, you can go the implementation route and like realize like, how do I end up programming this thing? But so much of our lives are dictated by algorithms that are really just applied mathematical concepts. And I think that that's really the case for a lot of stuff. So I found that my math background, like having a solid math background, helps me in that, but it also just like, it's a way of thinking. And I think that the more you study math, the more you realize that like it does change your perspective of how you view the world. And I found that to be incredibly beneficial in like any, industry or research position that I've, experienced. So.
Thank you. We now have some geology questions. So we will talk with Patrick here. Do you see
All right, so to answer the first one, yeah, I can see them. Yeah, it's to everyone. So as far as field work goes, the answer is kind of both. You are required to take field classes in order to graduate. So you will take field courses, and they are there's an intro to field, which was probably one of the most beneficial because it taught me more than I had already taken an upper division one. So it taught me more than I thought it would. And I mean a lot. So you will get a lot of experience from that intro to field course. And then as far as field work goes, it'll depend on what subject you want to go to. And I guess this will kind of tie into the second question about what my favorite subject or topic on research has been. But I personally am interested in climate, paleoclimate. I am also on the other spectrum of that because I am very interested in active volcanology. So I kind of span the whole realm. But one thing that I personally have become very interested in is the geophysics side of it, and using more heavy math and tools of math in order to study those things. And that opens me up to the deep earth. It opens me up to space. And I mean, it takes you to a lot of places. So it'll just depend on what route you want to go. I mentioned earlier, I have two friends. One is going to go straight into active volcanology. She's already doing research on it. And my other friend, she is actually leaning towards sedimentology, which we all thought we didn't like, and then we took it and now we like it. So don't be afraid to try it even if you think you won't like it. So in jobs, just look it up. There's lots of different areas. Just depends on where you want to live and kind of what you want to study.
Great. Real quick on that, I was going to add this before, but Patrick's last comment there reminded me, there is an office on campus called Career Services. It is free when you're a student at CU, so you should definitely take advantage. They'll do really basic stuff with, just helping with resume and cover letter and stuff like that, but they also have a service where you can look up jobs and internships, and under normal circumstances also have career fairs and things like that. So definitely get connected with Career Services, because it's something, that is just there ready for you to take advantage of.
Can I throw one more thing in since you just mentioned something? At least for the geology department, because our department is pretty small. I would say if there's something you're interested in, and this is going to apply to you for the rest of your academic career, reach out to a professor in the department who's doing research on it, and they would love to have you come by and job shadow, or they will walk you through kind of what they're studying. This past semester, I got to do that, and I got to go see one of my interests in the paleoclimate and kind of look at how they actually measure that and the instruments they use. And I got to look at the data, and I didn't understand it, but it made me realize I want to. So just ask.
Great, thank you. I agree with that. Like we said, office hours, talking with faculty, don't be afraid, they want to help. We have another question, although suddenly lots of questions, but we'll keep going if everyone wants. So the question is about study abroad. Whether anyone did study abroad, I don't think so, but I can talk a little bit about the process, but I was also thinking that John might want to talk a little bit here because he set up an event that connected a bunch of people from different universities, a little different experience, but in terms of the process, there is another office on campus called Education Abroad. And the first thing that you'll have to do there is there's a training that you have to take called Abroad 101. And once you do that, which can be done in person normally, or they have an online version as well, and that will allow you to kind of find out the different programs, because there are, short ones that are in the summer, but there's also, studying for a full semester or even a year potentially. Some people go to a specific area based on stuff that they want to do for their majors. Some people want to go to a particular area that they're just really interested in. So they're doing more, kind of gen ed type courses, things like that. So there are lots of different kind of approaches. It'll be up to you to determine what you want to do on that front. But definitely the first thing is Abroad 101. And then you can also do research on the different programs that CU has partnerships with, and you can look at different areas all around the world. And if John wants to add anything, he can.
Yeah, so then the Education Abroad office will recommend that you meet with us, your advisor, and then kind of talk through what kind of classes you want to take, right? And then what kind of experience that you want. And depending on your major, it might be easier or harder if you want to complete some of your major requirements abroad. For example, for the EMVS major, we have these specialization classes that are already pre-approved through Education Abroad, and then so a lot of our students, go abroad to finish those courses. And most popularly is the gen ed requirements that students will complete abroad. But really, we'll just have a conversation to see, what kind of experience that you would like during your abroad trip.
Perfect. I think that's it. No other questions have come in, and we are over time now. So I, again, would like to thank all the panelists. Jasmine just had to run off, but everyone else, on Zoom, there are the reaction things at the bottom. So we can give a round of applause, or I think you have the ability to unmute yourself if you do want to talk and say something in person. But yeah, otherwise, thank you, everyone. And like the panelists said, if you want to reach out,